What if hesitation wasn't just a pause? What if, each time you waited, doubted or delayed, something vast and unseen, something trying to move through you, was forced to stop at the gates of your indecision? The universe is always in motion, and you are its instrument, its channel, its thread. But a thread can tangle, a gate can close, a breath held too long begins to choke. Every second you hesitate is a second that could have cracked reality wide open. There's something about truth that makes the soul ache, not because it hurts, but because it recognizes. You know this even if you haven't said it aloud. The moment is always now, not in theory, not in philosophy, but in raw, unmistakable experience. You've felt it, in the silence before the decision, in the tension before the leap. The breakthrough doesn't wait, it arrives when you do. You've felt it before, standing at the edge of a decision, sensing a shift rising from deep within, yet choosing to wait. Not now, you whisper to yourself. Tomorrow when I'm stronger, when life is quieter, when I'm finally ready. But tomorrow is a mirage, and hesitation is how it survives. The introduction has already made one thing clear. The breakthrough is not ahead of you, it's always beside you, waiting to be received. Every time you delay, you're not just pausing growth, you're postponing destiny. There's a subtle cruelty in the illusion of tomorrow. It dresses itself in logic, in caution, even self-care. It tells you to wait until you're less afraid, more certain, more supported. But what it truly does is keep you trapped in a version of yourself that has already expired. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in the precise second you decide to move despite discomfort. That decision, though invisible to the world, is sacred. And when you hesitate, when you pause at the threshold of transformation, the universe doesn't punish you. It simply mirrors your pace. This isn't a warning against waiting out of impatience. It's a call to remember that life isn't lived in potential, but in action. You can dream of being more honest, more free, more aligned, but until you act from that alignment, nothing changes. The future stays exactly as it is. The door remains closed. Life doesn't move in response to what you hope for. It moves in response to what you embody. And embodiment doesn't happen in imagination. It happens in the exact moment you stop avoiding what you already know you're meant to do. You might believe that one more delay won't matter, that one more day won't change much. But delay is cumulative. Every second you don't begin reinforces the version of you that avoids, that postpones, that fears. And that version gains strength in your nervous system, in your habits, in your identity. Meanwhile, the version of you that could have stepped forward remains locked behind your indecision. You're not avoiding discomfort, you're avoiding your own emergence. And the longer you wait, the more distant the breakthrough begins to feel. So ask yourself, what exactly are you waiting for? Perfect conditions, absolute clarity, total confidence. These are myths the ego invents to avoid the unknown. But the unknown is where everything you want already lives. The truth is raw but liberating. Every second you hesitate, the universe delays the breakthrough. Not because it wants to, but because it must. It follows your signal. And until you stop postponing your becoming, the life you seek remains just out of reach, not because it's far, but because you haven't said yes to it right now. Once you see through the illusion of tomorrow, what remains is the sharp clarity of now. No more waiting, no more planning, no more hiding behind someday. The moment reveals itself not as a stepping stone, but as the entire path. And this is where the battle truly begins. Not in the abstract idea of change, but in the exact second you're called to act differently than you used to. The breakthrough doesn't ask for preparation. It demands presence. It doesn't knock. It shows up unannounced and waits to see if you'll flinch. You might expect change to arrive in grand revelations or life-altering events. But in reality, the test appears in the quiet details. It's in the choice to speak the truth when lying feels easier. It's in the decision to walk away from the habit you've fed for years. It's in the split second when the craving hits, when the fear rises, When the mind says, just once more, that's the arena. That's the moment everything depends on. And every time you hesitate, every time you turn away from the challenge of now, you defer the version of you that could have been claimed. The mind is clever. It will try to make one moment of resistance feel like a lifetime of suffering. It will flood you with stories. You can't say no forever. You can't hold this line tomorrow, or next week, or next year. And under the weight of that imagined eternity, you'll collapse back into the familiar. But here's the truth. You're not being asked to win all future battles. You're only being asked to win this one, right now. If you can hold the line for this one meal, this one conversation, this one decision, then you've changed everything, because the present moment is the only place identity is ever rewritten. There is no delay in the universe, only in your response. Life is unfolding right on time, waiting for you to catch up to your own potential. And each second you hesitate, the gate narrows, not because you're being punished, but because the breakthrough lives inside your choice, not your wish, not your vision, not your preparation, your choice. The battle is always now, and if you don't enter it here, you'll find yourself circling the same lessons, the same pain, the same patterns, wondering why nothing ever moves. It's because you never moved, in the moment when it actually mattered. You now understand the battle is always now, but what happens when you hesitate, when you don't enter the moment that demands your evolution? The cost is not just that nothing changes. The cost is that something does change, but in the wrong direction. Every second you delay, you don't just postpone progress. You reinforce the very identity you're trying to outgrow. The version of you that avoids, escapes, rationalizes, that version becomes stronger, more rooted, more difficult to dissolve. And the longer you let it lead, the more your breakthrough fades into the background of your life. Hesitation is not neutral. It accumulates. It stacks upon itself until it becomes the norm. What begins as a small pause quickly becomes a pattern, then a habit, then a personality. And suddenly you start to believe the lie that maybe you're not ready, that maybe you're not capable, that maybe your breakthrough was never meant for you in the first place. But it was. It is. It's just been sitting behind every moment you turned away, waiting for you to step forward. The cost of hesitation is not just missed opportunity, it's the slow erosion of your own belief in what's possible. There's a mental weight to hesitation that most people never speak of. It shows up as anxiety, restlessness, frustration. You feel stuck, but can't explain why. You blame circumstances, other people, timing. But deep down you know the truth. It's the war between knowing and not acting, between vision and avoidance. The pain doesn't come from failing, it comes from not trying. Because every time you know what to do and don't do it, you fracture your relationship with yourself. You chip away at your own integrity, and that kind of pain lingers far longer than the discomfort of action ever would. Some justify hesitation by calling it patience, but there's a difference. Patience is the wisdom to act when it's right. Hesitation is the fear of acting when it is. The line between the two is thin but crucial, and most people, in the name of caution, choose inaction far past the moment they were called to leap. The universe is not waiting for perfection. It's waiting for alignment, for movement, for willingness. And every time you wait for certainty instead of choosing truth, the energy behind your breakthrough fades. Not because it's gone, but because you've stepped out of its rhythm. So the question becomes, how much longer are you willing to pay this price? How much longer will you give your energy to delay when you could give it to destiny? The cost of hesitation is not just the life you didn't live, it's the weight of knowing you could have. And that weight grows heavier each time you say, maybe tomorrow. Every second you hesitate, the universe delays the breakthrough, not out of cruelty, but out of respect for your choice. Because reality will never force you to become more. It will only reflect what you allow. Once you grasp the cost of hesitation, you begin to see that every decision is not just a passing choice. It's an act of self-definition. Who you are is not written in the stars, but in the small, repeated actions you either embrace or avoid. Identity is not declared, it's built, not in words, but in behavior. And behavior is born in practice. Every second you delay the practice of becoming, you delay the formation of the person you're meant to be. The universe isn't waiting for the perfect version of you to show up. It's waiting for consistency, for repetition, for alignment in motion. Willpower is not endless. It's a spark, small, flickering and temporary. But that spark is enough to ignite something larger, a rhythm, a pattern, a standard. You don't need to conquer your entire life today. You only need to show up fully in this moment, just long enough to lay down a new brick. And the more you do that, the easier it becomes. The mind stops negotiating, the cravings lose volume, the fear starts to respect you, because you're training yourself to respond, not with hesitation, but with action. That's what practice really is, teaching your body, your mind and your spirit how to move without delay, without waiting for perfect conditions, without overthinking. When you meet the moment consistently, something incredible happens. You start to trust yourself, and when you trust yourself, hesitation begins to dissolve, not through force, but through familiarity. You've made the breakthrough your new normal, and now, instead of being something rare and dramatic, change becomes automatic. That's when you know identity has shifted. And here lies the quiet truth so many overlook. Transformation doesn't come from occasional effort. It comes from repeated obedience to the moment. Every second you choose practice over postponement, the universe moves with you. Not in applause, not in lightning bolts, but in momentum, in quiet rearrangements, in invisible alignment. And suddenly you realize the person you were waiting to become is simply the result of not hesitating over and over again. When practice becomes your rhythm, you begin to notice something deeper. The moment itself starts to reflect you. Like a mirror, it shows you not what you want to be, but what you are actively choosing to be. Every situation, every challenge, every hesitation, it all becomes feedback. The moment no longer feels like a test imposed from outside. It feels like a canvas, and what shows up on it is painted by your level of presence, commitment, and follow-through. The breakthrough doesn't hide in the distance. It stands where you stand, mimicking the exact frequency of your being. You can't fake alignment. The universe responds to the truth of your energy, not the appearance of effort. If you hesitate, it mirrors that pause. If you delay, it delays with you. And if you move, fully, decisively, without resistance, it opens, rapidly and precisely. That's why the present moment is sacred, because it doesn't lie. It reflects exactly what you're ready for. You don't attract what you wish, you attract what you match. And matching doesn't happen in thought alone. It happens in movement, in decision, in devotion to the now. Many wait for confirmation before they commit. They want signs, proof, certainty. But the moment is the sign. It's always asking the same question. Are you aligned with what you say you want? If you are, the next step reveals itself. If you're not, the path disappears. Not because it's gone, but because your hesitation has clouded your vision. The moment gives to you what you're willing to receive, and you receive by showing up, not by hoping, but by acting. The mirror of life is honest, sometimes painfully so, but it's always fair. And this is where your power lies. You don't need to beg the universe for a breakthrough. You just need to show the universe that you're no longer waiting, that you're no longer hesitating, that you're no longer postponing the embodiment of who you already know you are. When you move without flinching, life meets you without delay. Because the moment doesn't shape you, you shape through the moment. And the second you stop hesitating, you stop blocking the reflection of your highest self. Every second you hesitate, the universe delays the breakthrough, not out of punishment, but out of reflection. It mirrors your rhythm. If you pause, it pauses. If you leap, it opens. The gate is not locked. It's simply waiting for your presence to become the key. Don't ask when your moment will come. You are in it. Always have been. And now that you no longer have the luxury of pretending you don't. The moment is calling, the breakthrough is here, and hesitation has no place in the presence of your becoming.